What's up, everybody? Welcome to my desktop. This is going to be a little bit different than what I've done before. Yeah, I agree. We'll go ahead and remove that. All right, so anyway, what we're going to do today is we're basically going to cover how I pre-flight, like do all my planning, stuff like that, all that in regards to flying in VATSIM. Now, right now, there's a couple controllers on in VATSIM, and this kind of comes into the whole planning process. What I usually do is I bring up a website, which I'll bring it up now. It's called VATtastic, and basically it allows you to see who's on and where in regards to VATSIM. So we've got people in Boston. We've got an approach controller up in, it looks like, is it Milwaukee? Oh no, is it? Oh my gosh, no, see, now I'm gonna have to fix that. But anyway, Memphis is online, and Memphis has been online all morning. And what I've noticed is that Memphis recently has been staying online pretty much consistently in the mornings and afternoons. So that's where we're going to be flying out of today, and that's what I flew out last time as well. Because they're online, I know they're going to be online. Oh, it does say the wrong thing. Ugh. Let me fix that real fast. All right, that's fixed. Thanks for pointing that out, Aviator. All right, so yeah, so basically we're going to fly from Memphis, and we're going to fly to New Orleans. With that being said, we only have Memphis Centerline, which will get us most of the way. We won't get that final approach stuff with the VATSIM, but that's kind of going to be the same no matter where you go, and it'll be fine. So to start my planning, this is usually where I go first, to see who's online and where, so that I kind of make my decisions based off that and make sure I still have controllers. So I do know that we are going to be flying out of Memphis. We got Memphis Center online, so we're good to go there. Going to close that out. The next place I go is SimBrief. If you guys are familiar with SimBrief, SimBrief is a great little program online. It's now owned by Navigraph. Before it was independent. And it is a full simulated dispatching software. It's under dispatch, right? It's really awesome. It allows you to sync Navigraph with it in regards to your AirAct data and stuff like that, which of course I have, which reminds me I need to go in and do that real fast as well. So this is what happens when I do things live. So we're going to go to dispatch system. Let me go ahead and bring up my you know what, I also, well, no, it was pulling up, it's fine. Let me fix this real fast. Which one is that supposed to be on? Sorry, I had restarted my computer. When I restart my computer, things happen. All right, there we go. Okay, so let me also update all this. See, this is what happens, guys. This is what happens. Update. All right, cool. So once we're in SimBrief, I'm going to create a new flight. Today we'll act like we're Delta, and I like to do whatever time I start this brief is the flight number. That's what I do. Obviously, not everyone can do that because then everyone had the same numbers, but that's what I do. So 1204, and departure is going to be Memphis, and arrival is going to be New Orleans. Now, if you're not sure what the airport ICAO code is, you can find that by using SkyVector, which we'll also be using later. So SkyVector, of course, mainly only inside the United States, as you can tell, and Alaska, of course. Kind of shows you all of different airports, VFR charts. Excuse me, all that. Airports, everything's there. I've actually got this route in here that I was checking out a flight that I may actually do in real life. But anyway, so New Orleans is down here, and you can always, whenever you find the airport, you right-click it, and it's going to give you all the information you need. So Louis Armstrong, New Orleans in Louisiana. KMSY, so it gives you there. And then, of course, it gives you also the VOR that's nearby fix, GPS location, And then you can hover over this and it gives you all your charts, which we'll use later on. So that's how you can figure out if you need to figure it out. SkyVector is a good option for that. You can also Google it, but that works, just fine. All right, so aircraft type. Well, first off, departures. So departures, you're in Zulu time. SimBrief is nice, and it gives you this UTC clock, which is the same as Zulu. It's the same thing, just different names. And you can see right now it's 1706. We can probably depart. It's probably going to be like 1740. And airframe is going to be the 737-800, which you find in here, right there. Okay. Now, you can change all of this if you want to. There's a lot of options that you can do. Climb profiles, cruise profiles, descent profiles, fuel factors, registration number, fin number, CCAL code, ATC call sign. This is all things you can play with if you want to. In most cases, I just leave it default. There's really not, especially for most of us who are just doing this for fun, there's no real reason to mess with this. On the right-hand side, this is all of your fuels. Now, if you're playing for a virtual airline, they may have you change different things of this nature. That's up to you. I'm going to do this in pounds because I know that the Boeing is normally in pounds. Can't do kilograms, of course, but it's default in mine is pounds. There's different types of flight plans, profiles, as you can see. You can do Lido, you can do Delta, for example, American Airlines, KLM. I mean, there's a bunch, right? There's a bunch of options here. I'm going to keep it in Lido because that's what I'm familiar with. However, if you wanted to fly it like a Delta or fly it like a whatever, you have the option to do that. And then here you have the option of what you want included inside of that flight plan. I mean, it has everything you can have. You could have your NOTAMs in there, FIR NOTAMs, runway analysis, all of that, right? I'm not going to have any of that in there. Flight maps, you can have detailed, route only, simple, or none. I have none because, again, I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible. But you feel free to add those in if you want a more detailed flight plan. Scheduled flight time. So this is it automatically approximates the time that you're going to be actually working the aircraft. So that's from pushback to pulling into the gate. Okay. So this is not actual flight time. This is not like in the air time. It's going to be less than this, usually about 30 minutes less. But in regards to actually in control of the aircraft, pushback, and that kind of thing, that's what this is for. Departure runway. It gives it to you automatically, 36 center. We'll see if that's the case. Arrival runways 02. Taxi out, taxi in. This is fuel. Extra fuel, none. Altitudes can be auto. See what it gives us. Passengers, auto. I yawn a lot when I talk a lot. Cargo, zero fuel weights, auto. Dispatcher name, you can add this if you want, but don't worry about it. Captain name, this is my name, of course, and my ID, which is there. Dispatch remarks, separate each remark with a new line. You have the option to put in remarks in here. Again, not really necessary for what you're going to be doing. AirAC cycle. So if you guys do not have Navigraph, it's going to show an AirAC cycle of 1908, I believe, unless they updated that. If you do have Navigraph, you're going to need to unlock and select. It says right here, unlock or select upgraded Navigraph data. So you have options that you can actually change your AirAC data, right? Of course, going to have the most up-to-date. If it's not current, it'll say not current right here instead of being green, saying current. And you have the option of clicking that and updating it to the latest if you have Navigraph. If you don't have Navigraph, you're not going to have that option. Route, this is their actual route. Now, a cool thing about this route, your fuel resets every time I empty my fuel. I may enter fuel from SimBrief. Is that a bug? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Once we get to the aircraft, maybe you can describe it more. So route, you have an option of selecting these different things. Now, this is pretty cool. If I select SkyVector, for example, it's going to automatically show me my route in SkyVector. Another cool option I like to use is FlightAware. So FlightAware has a route analysis option, which gives you the most frequent routes from your origin to your destination and the different flight levels they flew at. So I think it's the last 30 days, you had 11 flights that flew this route. right? So that's the route it shows, and that's the reason why it shows that route. You also have options for different routes. They're over here. You can view more routes if you want to. So yeah, this is the suggested and primary route, but you can use other routes if you want to. All right, you can do a route finder. It's a tool that basically allows you to, make your own route if you want to, historical weather, alternate airports, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, right? And here's a little map showing that. So once this is done, you're going to generate flight. It's going to confirm you wish to generate this flight plan. Yes, of course I do. And it's going to take a little bit of time. The more stuff you have in the plan, the longer it's going to take. Mine takes pretty fast. However, when I used to do really long, full flight plans, it would take about a minute generating all those maps and stuff. All right, so here we are. It's just giving us a flight plan summary here. Airline, everything that we entered. Block fuel, this is approximate. Here's the airtime I was talking about. This is your actual in the air time from takeoff to landing. So 1 hour and 3 minutes is what it's estimating there. Block fuel, extra fuel, zero fuel weight, takeoff weight, routing, air cycle, all this kind of stuff, right? So this gives you all that. But here's your actual flight plan. This is the important part that we're going to be using throughout the whole flight today. And we'll get into that inside the aircraft, but this is the important thing. What I usually do, because I found that my web browser takes up a little bit of my memory and CPU usage, so just that getting a little bit of performance, right? I usually print this off, and to do that, I go up here to print view PDF, and I'll just download that. Right, and there's that. So now I've got it. I can open it up. Oops, let me open it up in Adobe. So here is the flight plan, all ready to go in Adobe Reader. And I found Adobe Reader is more efficient on my stuff. So this is what we're using today. I'm also going to drop this into the, the Avi tab, so that we can look at in the Avi tab. And to do that's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. I'm going to bring up my X plane here. And all I'm going to do is go into resources, go into plugins, Avi tab, charts. Delete this old one. Bring up my downloads folder again and drag it into there. That's that. So now it's in my Avi tab. Now, before I leave this screen, even though I printed everything, there's a little thing I want to do. Go to VATSIM and pre-file. Now it's going to take me to a login screen. Let me do this off screen, so you guys don't try to hack into my account, claiming to be me on VATSIM and get me kicked off or something. All right. Now that I'm logged in, so once you log in, it's just going to take you to this dashboard. You don't have to worry about that, but you just have to log in initially, and then I hit pre-file again. It's going to actually bring up my file of flight plan option. Again, it's going to have all your information here. If for some reason you're wanting to change your altitude, your flight, your route, or anything, you can do that right here as well. And let's say that you submit one though, and you're like, oh, well, it was wrong. I went back into SimBrief and changed it up. Can I do it again? Yes. And if it's the same call sign, it'll write over the last flight plan. So whatever the latest flight plan is on that call sign, that's what the flight plans can be seen by ATC. All right, what I like to do is down here in remarks, I like to put who I am and let them know my actual pilot, private pilot, so they know. Why? Because if you know anything about pilots, we love to tell people we're pilots, and then that I'm on YouTube. Now, this is a good point. If you're new, never used VATSIM before, put in the remarks new to VATSIM, or first time on VATSIM, or something like that. Or if you're second or third or whatever, let them know. If it's the first time you're flying the aircraft, let them know. This is where you're communicating with us as the air traffic controllers on the other end, what your experience level, things that we may need to know to be more gracious towards you, or maybe give you more direction or more instruction, or speak slower. Like if you have problems hearing, put that in there. Whatever it may be, that's where this goes in the remarks section. I don't really need to put any of that because I'm very familiar with the 737. I'm not new to VATSIM, that kind of stuff. So once that's all done, I'm satisfied with all of this information. If you really want to dig into all of this, there is a ton of that. But honestly, for most people, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right, file, flight plan. Flight plan, file, enjoy your flight. That's it. All right, so now I've done all my pre-flight stuff in regards to getting my flight plan ready to go. So I can close out of that. I'm going to keep SkyVector open, but I'm going to push it over to this other screen real fast. And I'm going to head and I'm going to open up a couple things. XPilot, that's what I use for communicating with ATC. Great little program, simple to use. I enjoy it. I think it's the best. Nope, no restriction. You can use whatever aircraft you want. We just ask that you preferably don't fly an aircraft you don't know. That's generally what we say. All right, bring up XPilot. XPilot, X-Plane, and wait for this to load. One other thing that I will also start is I have Active Sky, which gives me more detailed weather for X-Plane as well as updating it consistently. So I will bring that up as well once I've loaded up here. So bring up Active Sky. All right, so Active Sky is running now. So at this point, we will go ahead and go to new flight. I've already picked the 737-800X 4K because I want the high resolution textures. But if you're running on a low computer, then this regular 737-800X might be your option. Go into Customize here. You have options to start with engines running. We won't do that because we're going to do cold and dark startup, weight and balance and fuel. You can change it here. However, we're going to change that in game. Failures, you have the option of setting up all kinds of failures. We're not going to do any of that though. All right, and upper right hand corner, you have this option for your different what do you call it? Liveries. That's what, right. So I got different ones on here: Sky Delta, just regular Delta. We'll do regular Delta today. Weather, it says clear, but it says from custom METAR.rwx file. And if you customize this, if you have some other program, you're actually going to pull METAR data from a file rather than from the actual live weather. However, if you don't have something like Active Sky or something like that, you're going to do match real world conditions. On VATSIM, it's automatically going to pull weather from VATSIM. That's going to be very similar to this. So going ahead and having this loaded up is kind of beneficial. So from custom, and going to go and select the METAR.wx, but that's just in case you have something else, that's what you want to do. All right, so time of day, I have it 12:19 local, which is the current time where I am, which is Eastern. I'm not sure why. Yeah, there we go. 11:19 local is what the time is in Memphis, so we'll go there. And we're going to be starting at Memphis International. You can search your airport right here, and it's going to pop up. Now, once we do this, I'm going to double click the airport because that'll bring me into this more detailed view. I'm going to zoom in. I have the option of selecting different gates, as you can see. So we'll select, let's do gate, well, not gate Charlie 2. Confirm. Yeah, Giorgio, I can't speak on 2020. I've had lots of problems with it, so I just kind of abandoned it for now until I hear otherwise. I really sorry. I don't know what the problem is. It's probably just a bug. All right, so once I've got the time, the weather, my location, all that set, everything's good to go. I'm going to go ahead and select start flight, and it's going to take a minute to load. It usually takes about 2 to 3 minutes to load. Maybe it'll be faster today. Probably won't be. If you guys haven't already, be sure to hit the like button down below if you're liking this already. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat as well. If you're watching this after the fact, you can comment below and I will read your comments. I do read them. Doesn't mean I'll respond necessarily, but I try to. I have everything plugged in. Nope, I don't. I don't have my honeycomb yoke plugged in. Kind of important. All right. Yeah, unfortunately it is. I don't know what they're doing with 2020. All right, I'm going to ignore this. Don't have to worry about that. All right, so we're inside of the cockpit, and first thing I'm going to do is actually pull up my saved config. Now, I have this aircraft configured in a certain way with regards to lights, in regards to everything else that's going on. I have it to a certain configuration. So I'm going to save and load configuration, manage aircraft presets, and load preset 1. That should have, yep, notice the lighting changed and stuff. Perfect. All right, so now that's done. What I do, and I wish I could make this bigger, but I can't for some reason. I wish this was like a draggable box you could make bigger. Unless I'm missing it somehow. All right, so this is my checklist in regards to me operating the 737-800. We're going to go through this, of course. But before we do that, there's a couple things I want to do. I want to go in here, go AviTab, bring up my charts. Here is the flight plan that we put into the AviTab directory. And we can see, here it is. So block fuel was 13,170, so really 13,2 is what we're looking for in regards to our fuel. The reason why I'm doing that now is because sometimes it takes a while for fuel to load. So 13,2. And I'm going to go ahead and call the fuel truck. Ground services, going to connect GPU, set chocks, doors, forward entry, forward cargo, aft cargo. Going to open all those up. All right, so that's good to go. I am going to go ahead now and go to my checklist and start this procedures. So battery guarded and closed. Dome light to bright or off. That's fine. I'm good with how it is now. Hydraulic pumps A and B coming on. I'm sorry, off, not on. Landing gear should be in the down position. Verify it is on my throttle quadrant. It is also in the down position. Gear status 3 green. And bus transfer guarded. All right, so now we actually doing fire control panel. And if you guys have done this stuff before, you know what we're doing here. Testing. Make sure we're getting the lights on there. We are. All right, cool. I don't know why it didn't activate, but we did both of those. AC ground power on. Wheel light on if we're going to do an exterior inspection. We're not going to do an exterior inspection today. So instead, we're just going to turn on none of these lights because we're not going to do an exterior inspection. We're not going to do it's not icy exterior inspection, and it's not dark, right? So at this point, we're going to turn our hydraulic pumps on. All right, forward, aft, and service doors. They want us to open up more doors. That's fine. Aft service, forward service. And we've already set up the fuel. We want to get that loaded. So block fuel's already set. Fuel truck's refueling. And we'll start services on the ground. Again, just going through the checklist. It's that simple. All right. Overhead middle panel. Panel to brightness. Emergency exit lights. To armed. Cabin to 10 test. Ground call test. Flap indicator. So what we're going to check in here is we have 0 flaps here, 0 on my controls, and 0 over here. Yep, 0. So 0 across the board. Takeoff config test. So basically we're just testing to see if the horn. That's correct. And now cargo fire, which is this button right here. All right, and we're going to keep the lighting here as well. Panel bright, a little bit of flood. Cool deal. Not going to worry about these 3. Flight recorder test. Right here, test. Good. Mock airspeed warning test 1, 2. Now, stall warning test 1 and 2 is not going to work until a certain time has passed on internal power or external power. So you're not going to hear it actually click. I think it's 6 minutes AC. Yeah, 6 minutes of AC power. So we're just going to check that off. Continue on the way it is what it is. That would happen. You would have that 6 minutes if you did an exterior inspection, which we're not going to do. All right. Might select flight crew left and right. We're going to switch this to nav. Oops. And nav. And we're going to go heading and status 7 minutes, and we'll have an alignment with the IRS system. Perfect. Emergency rope's good. That's all good. So once I'm done with the pre-flight is when I'll connect the X-plane. So we're going to keep going here, and we'll explain that in a second. Master lights test panel scan. So if we go test, and we make sure that all the lights are illuminated, of course, in X-plane, everything's going to be perfectly fine. Back to bright. Disconnect 1, 2, and 1, 2. And this is autopilot disconnect warning lights. Oxygen, press this, check it, main panel backlight. I'm trying to, where, that's down here. Main panel bright all the way. Background just a little bit, and aphids flood just a little bit. All right. Now let's go and select the airport button, because this local airports are closest airports. Terrain on. Barometric value, local QNH. Now, there's 2 ways to get your information for local QNH. If you're on VATSIM, you can pull the ATIS, or you can pull the real life ATIS. It's going to be really close. What we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and connect to X-plane, or VATSIM, sorry. So to do that, all I'm going to do is go in here, select connect. It's going to ask what kind of aircraft I'm flying, which I'm going to be flying, that's recent aircraft, sorry. We're going to be flying the 738. So select it right there. Call sign is Delta 1204. And connect. And now it's loading up inside of VATSIM. Give it a moment. Did the controller go offline? It is possible. Let's bring up Fantastic. This is the problem with VATSIM. You never know. You never know. Yep, went offline. Yay. Showing you how to do VATSIM, and I can't even do VATSIM because there's no VATSIM controllers. All right, so but that's how you connect. Once you connect it, it'll give you all the frequencies on the left-hand side here, and then you tune your radios appropriately to hear your ATIS or talk to your controller and stuff like that. And I'll go through as if I'm talking to a controller, so you can still see what it's like, and I'll even be the controller side, and because I've actually flown out of this airport, so I know what they're going to do, and I'll kind of mimic their side as well, just so you guys can see it. All right, so I am going to bring up Active Sky here and set my barometric to that 3012, and then we're going to switch to barometric on minimums, and we're going to go 1,000 feet above the current elevation, which is 352, I believe. So we're going to go up to 1,352. Yeah. First officer test stuff. So we're going to do the oxygen test here. Panel lighting again. We're going to set that. Main panel all the way up. Chip whisk test. This is an important system. You definitely want to test that. Clock they want to put in UTC. That's fine. All right. Terrain data also on the first officer side. Traffic distance to 40. Local QNH. I thought I set this to mimic. It should have mimicked. It's whatever. 3012. Barometric. Baro. Now, if you're doing this, if you're flying just yourself, you don't have to worry about this. I just do it for consistency's sake. There we go. All right, we can go to stop services. We can go ahead and close the forward service doors, and we can go ahead and wait for those to close. And we'll start a flight leg. Oh, you know, one thing I didn't do, I didn't change my payload. Whoops. Oh, no. Didn't mean to do that. Payload. Gotta include passengers if you want passengers to board. And I'm just filling up the whole aircraft, and you'll see why in a second. So I've got the payload or passengers on board. Now what I want to do is go into my charts here, see what my estimated weight is, right? So zero fuel weight's 132,400 basically. So if I go into my fuel imbalance again, and you'll see, well, our takeoff are 0, right? So we're looking for 132,400. So we know we're going to have to add, why did I keep doing that? Keep acting like I can type it in. 2,500. We're just going to throw in 2,500 pounds on both of these. And I could do a calculator and figure it out, but all right, so we're close. We need about 2,000, well, a little less than 2,000 pounds. So we went in here and put in 3,200. And it's really close. Probably gonna be a little bit over, I think. Yeah, so 13532, which is really close. So again, probably calculator would be shorter, but I don't feel like pulling it out. All right, that's close enough. That works for me. Okay, so that's set. We're good there. Now we're going to our FMC. Clear that message out. Go to the FMC. And we're going to make sure that, again, we have active navigational nav data, right? Again, if you don't have Navigraph, this is going to be a different number. It's going to show something like 1908 or 1911 or something like that. Get a position in it. And one thing about this checklist, it doesn't check that stuff off, so you have to do it yourself. All right, so we're going to go next page, pull the left GPS, previous page, set IRS position. Reference airport is going to be Memphis. That's both set. Now we're going to go to route. Origin is Memphis, and destination is New Orleans. Flight number is Delta 1204. Runway, it's wanting us to take off 36. Let's see what the winds are right now. 030 at 7 knots. Yep, so runway 36 center. It's going to be our runway. Done that, done that, done that. So now that that's done, what we're going to do is go departure, departing Memphis. And we're going to pull up our chart here. I'm going to pull it up here in Avitab in this version right here. And we're going to go next page. So 36 center is Pipey 6. Next. Pipey 6. And we are going to be iBuffy transition. Go to route, next page. Now, this doesn't have any type of airways or anything like that in between. If we did have that, this is where we put it in, but we don't have that, so we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to go in and go to arrival, go straight to New Orleans. We're going to pull out the rhythm for arrival, MCB transition, and we're expecting ILS 02. And now that we've done that, airways and waypoint routing is completed. Departure routing is done. Arrival routing is done. And now we're going to go to our legs page and make sure we have no discontinuities. And see, we have one from between iBuffy and MCB. So we're going to select MCB, go previous page, put it into that empty part. Now we don't have a discontinuity. And that looks correct. So we're clear of discontinuities, and we'll go ahead and activate. Mike Alpha X-Ray, hello, I'm also flying right now. That's awesome. Good deal. And 466, long time no see. How you doing? All right, so now that that's done, we're going to go to our initial performance page. And we're going to pull our gross weightage. We're going to put in our trip altitude and all that kind of stuff. So if we just click the left button, it should automatically pull all that. It's going to give us a recommended flight level, but that's not our actual flight level. Our actual flight level is listed here on the plan. Let me make this bigger. There we go. Right next, to the flight steps, Memphis, right? 0360, that's 36,000 feet. You can also see that on, if you look in your actual waypoints, all of your waypoints, right? It's going to give you a flight level. Top of climb, 360, which is 36,000 feet. So 36,000 feet, top ascent is also 36,000 feet, no steps in between there, and then you descent. So 36,000 feet is the correct altitude we're looking for. We're going to put 36,000 here. Reserves, again, this is going to be all based off this. Go back to page 1 where you have our fuel kind of outlined here. So our reserves are a combination of our alternates and our final reserves. You add those together. So roughly, just doing it in my head, we've got 49, so basically 5,000 pounds, so 5.0 in the reserve section. Cost index. So if you look up here, upper right hand corner, you'll see the cost index is 35. That's just a efficiency thing with how much fuel you're burning. Cruise wind, if we look at our average winds, it's 287 at 68. ISA deviation and top of climb OAT. So if we go here to our top of climb, we are seeing a top of climb temperature of +4. No, that's TDV, of -53. So -53, top of climb. There we go. So now it's going to calculate all that for you. All right, I'm going to close this out now. So reserves are set, cost index is set, trip cruise is set, ISA deviation, and transition altitude is correct. If you're not flying in the United States, your transition altitude will not be 18,000 feet. It will be whatever is given to you or is on the charts. Okay. Now we'll go back up here. We're going to turn our yaw dampener on. Perfect. All this is normal auto. And we'll go ahead and turn on those actually don't come on because we don't have any fuel in there. Those will come on. We'll trust our crossfeed, make sure valve open illuminates, deluminates, illuminates, and then completely deluminates. All right, electrical, we're going to change this to APU so we can see it charging up whenever we're ready to go with that. Seatbelt sign can come to the on position. Window heat, go ahead and come on. And we're going to look at our our main flight panel here. Sorry, yeah, hydraulic, yep, that's what we're looking for, yep. And we're going to go to our systems here and check our hydraulic pressures and make sure they're over 2,800, which they are. And back to engines here. All right, cabin pressure should be 0 psi. We're 0 psi. Climb should be zeroed out as well. All that's indicating 0. Now we're going to go ahead and set this to 36,000. And landing altitude, we are actually going to be at 0 because New Orleans is basically underwater. All right, so all that's set. Trim air on. Once trim air is on, we're going to select our cabin temperatures. Now you can have it on auto, you can have it, cold or whatever. That's really up to you. Okay. Most common, I think, is like that, versus one notch left, one notch right. But it's really up to you however you want to do that. Air packs auto. And I think logo light would come on for darkness. We're not. Ignition should be in the right ignition. It is. Yep, it is. So logo lights on. This is good. Taxi lights off. All that. All right. So now we're going to pull up our actual charts. So this is where it gets a little. How did I I'll say, how did I do that? All right, so now we're going to go, we're actually going to pull up our departure charts. So look up airport. We're Memphis. And we're departing, you remember, on the Pipe 6 departure. Right? So we're taking off runway 36, which is center, which is this guy right here. So our initial heading is going to be 325. So we're actually going to put in our course 325 on both sides. Okay, now we're going to turn our flight directors on both sides. We'll get back to this in just a second. Bank angle's good. Heading, departure heading. So this is the, again, initial departure heading. You would think, oh, well, you put it in the heading. Nope. So what you do here is you actually put in the runway heading, so that for some reason, when you take off, you're flying the runway heading. If your autopilot takes over, it's not going to just jerk you over, whatever. So just runway heading, which is going to be 360. Like so. Initial climb clearance. So here in Memphis is going to be 5,000, and I'll fake call that out in just a second. We'll do that once it, I'll do that in just a second. Just bear with me. Standby altimeter QNH. That's could be 3012. Standby R. I'm not going to worry about that. And the rest should be almost ready to go. This should be RTO. Fill, flow, reset. All right, so now initial comm frequencies. You would go ahead and set your frequencies on your radios to have things in standby. For example, I believe here in Memphis, in fact, I can actually pull it up here in my charts. Let me do that. So you can see departure, Memphis departure is 124.65. So I could put that in here, for example, getting it ready to go if they were online, of course. It's all going to depend on who's online in VATSIM, right? Oh, Memphis Center is online, actually. Perfect. 133.65. So they actually are online. That's cool. Good. They came back online. That's awesome. I don't have to fake it. That's great. That's more work on my part that I don't have to do. All right, 775. Yeah. So here's the ATIS.
ILS and visual approaches in use. Operate mode C on taxiways and runways. Simultaneous approaches to parallel runways in use. Advise on initial contact. You have information alpha.
So information alpha is what we're looking for.
Memphis International Airport ATIS information alpha 1654 Zulu. 1030 at 7. Visibility 10. 25,000 scattered. Temperature 12. Dew point -4. Altimeter 3012.
Okay, so that's correct. I'll switch over to what did I get
36 left,
changed?
36 center
Hold
and
on.
minor. ILS and visual approaches in use. Operate mode C on
3650.
taxiways and run.
All right, so now I've tuned in the Memphis Center. We'll call them up here in a second to get our clearance. But nav frequencies, you just go ahead and set those today, active and passive, based off the data that you need. Now, for example, here's a good little hint for you guys. Let's say you take off and you have a problem, right? Instrument, you can't see anything, nothing like that. You don't want to be worrying about trying to put in an entire approach system and anything like that, right? So a good rule of thumb here is to go ahead, bring up Memphis, go into approaches, the longest runway that they have. So for example, ILS 36 Center, which is the longest one. And go ahead and put in that lock frequency, just in case you have to return, and leave it here in standby. That way you can flip it really fast, and boom, you're ready to rock and roll. That should be, I don't know why it was set. There we go. All right. So that frequency is good. ADF frequency is not going to worry about it. Initial transponder is actually 2,000. And I'm going to go ahead and close the door here. Perfect. All right, so we're going to bring this, get rid of that. Don't need that. I'll leave this up for now. Close that out. All right. So this is where you do a whole check of your briefing and everything to make sure everything's good. Sun's getting brighter.
402, leave my airspace. Kansas City is offline. Radar services terminated.
So,
frequency change approved. Get air.
Departure, arrival, SID, route, make sure all that's good. Again, you're checking this information. Just bring them Abby tab. If I look, right, Beal, Pyramid, Emacs, Hose, Bebby, Pipey, and iBuffy, right? So that's all correct. So we know our departure is correct. And then if we go in and pull up our arrival, we are on the, where are we on here? The rhythm 4. So here's the rhythm 4. So we're going to be going to MCB, which is right here, Macomb, VOR, to Zydeco, to foils, to rhythm. And that rhythm, here's the important thing, turbojets, expect clearance to cross at 11,000. So at rhythm, it should be 250 knots, and then it should be 11,000. This is why you check your routes. Okay, 11,000. And then ray up. That's it. That's done. So we've checked that. Ground distance is correct. Landing fuel enough. And we go and execute our route. And don't worry about that. Don't worry about that either. All those messages, I'm telling you, it says that, but you're fine. You're fine. All right. So route's executed. Clock. QNH, Firefly Director standby instruments checked. Expect to taxi right to active runway. So what we do here is we're pulling up our charts for our airport. We're going to kind of brief ourselves on what we expect to be given. So we're going to expect to be given pushback instructions facing south on Juliet. We'll take Juliet down to Romeo and take Romeo to 36 Center. That's what we're expecting. So Juliet, Romeo. That's what we're expecting for our taxi clearance. Runway departure, climb, altitude, we're expecting 5,000. That could change. And normal checks before start, readout. So if we actually, let's see, where is it? And click it, there we are. Oops. So before start, IRS mode selectors are nav, gear pins removed, light test checked, oxygen's tested, yaw dampers on, nav transfer display switches are all normal to auto, fuels on board. It should be 13.4. I think it's 13. Yeah, 13.4. 13.4 is on board. Emergency lights on. Fast seatbelts on. Blah, 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 blah. So forth, so on, so on. And then you stop here at this line. Okay? I've done all that. I'm ready to go. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and make a welcome and aboard message. We're going to close up our doors. Start our APU. Start our APU is pretty simple. Go on, then press and hold start for about 5 seconds until we get the low oil pressure light. Let go, and then it should automatically start. We'll leave it up like this. At this point, we are going to actually get our clearance as this APU starts. So we'll go ahead and set this. APU is running. All right, so does it actually have get clearance in here? Yeah, there it is. I like to get it before that, though. But while this is starting, I like to go ahead and get my clearance because there's nothing really else I'm doing. I got to wait for it anyway. So let's go and do that. Memphis Center, good morning. Delta 1204 on the ground in Memphis, ready IFR to New Orleans.
Hello, 1204 Memphis Center, expect a PDC.
we'll expect a PDC at Delta 1204. So PDC is basically just a text version of a clearance. Center controllers, usually that's what they do, because they're trying to look at a broad picture. They're not looking at you on your little airport. But if you have a ground controller or a tower controller, even an approach controller, probably going to give you a read back on your clearance rather than PDC. But just be aware of it. And we'll wait for him to give us that. APU's on, so we'll go and switch to APU. Ground's coming off. Disconnect, and we'll go and remove chocks as well. All right, now we're going to go into our initial. Oh, there's the PDC right there. We'll go over that in just a second. Adjust it if we got to adjust our gross weight or anything like that, right? We can adjust it there, execute in one limit. We'll get there in a second. So that's good. Executed the first page. AP bleeds going to come on right there. All right, and M1, we're going to pull our actual temperature, which outside right now is positive 12, I think. Yeah, it is. Select temperature as calculated. So this is where you come into a takeoff calculator. We're not going to use a takeoff calculator today. But if you were, you could use that, and this is where you get your cell. I generally just try to get close to 90. That usually works best for me, so we'll derate to 22K. And then we'll throw in a temperature. Let's just start at 40 and see what happens here. That's too low. 30s. So how about 35? It's close. 34. Pretty darn close. I want to be over 90 though. So we'll do 33. All right, takeoff flaps is calculated. Again, if you have a calculator, normally it's 5. Center of gravity is pulled. Trim is 525. Go and pull this information. But we're also going to set our trim here. 5.25, somewhere around right there. All right, speed bug is going to be V2, which is 146. So we're going to set this to 146. Like so. We're not going to do cut best threats option. Not going to worry about that. Checklist threat. We'll do that. Okay, contact. We already contacted them. SID as given. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. All right. So pre-departure ATC clearance Delta 1204, flight level 360, 738, transponders 1570. Go ahead and set that. 1570. So 1570 route cleared is pipe E6, iBuffy MCB rhythm 4, which is as filed. Runway 36 center, maintain 5,000. As I said, that's probably what would happen. Expect flight level 360, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequencies 133.65. Contact ground control 133.65 for a taxi. Advise initial contact. You have ATIS. Pushback clearance required for pushback on the taxiway. November and Juliet only. Remarks Delta 1204 pre-departure is end. So there's your pre-departure clearance. Pretty simple. Anti-collision lights is going to come to on. Left and right. Air conditioning packs going to go off. Preparation for start. Again, normal checklist start. Contact ATC request push and start. First off, I'm going to do better pushback pre-plan because I know what they're going to have us do. Go ahead and start pushback. And now we'll call them because it's going to be all about expeditious. And Memphis Center Delta 1204 ready for push and start.
Delta 1204 push on Juliet is approved, face south.
Push on Juliet approved, facing south, Delta 1204. All right, so we got that approved. And we'll start the pushback here in a second. So it's pretty easy, guys. I mean, it's a lot. I know I've covered a lot. I know it's already, what are we in? We're in I don't have a timer, but we're almost an hour into the stream now. So it can be quite cumbersome. As you progress, you get faster and faster and faster. I can be up and running in like 20 minutes or less. But, you know, it's all up to as you progress and get better.
Memphis Center, expect a PDC.
Waiting for him to be ready to push us back here. Hope this is being helpful, though. Hope you guys are learning something. All right, so we're going to release parking brake. Out of release parking brake. Go overhead, start engine number 2 first, go to ground. And wait until we see, I believe it's 25% on N2, which is right here. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Idle. N1 rising. EGT's rising. And we're looking at that temperature right here. If this gets above 500, we kill it. Which it's not. All right, engine 2 is stabilized, so we'll go engine number 1 to ground. Your pushback's doing correctly. And waiting for 25 on N2 on engine number 1. Here it is. Now, Memphis is a little different. And remember, I mentioned about, you know, the whole getting permission to push and start. Most controllers are going to tell you push and start at your own discretion because you're in a ramp area. However, because I'm pushing onto a taxiway, I had to have special permission. Yeah, so I use the default X-plane stuff, so you can set whatever view you want. Let's say you wanted a view like this. And then use Control and then press a number key on your numpad. Make sure num lock's on. And that sets it. And then pressing that number pad key will recall that, that look. So that's how I'm doing that. I previously have set up all these different ones. All right, engine generator switches 2 and 1. If you can come off. Engine start switches continuous. Probe heats on. It's gonna come on. Auto. If you bleed off. Push disconnect and hand signals. We'll wait for them to show us that, and then we'll start taxiing down.
Whiskey Lima, Memphis Center, squawk 1513. I have your iFind request.
Thank you, Brian. Hit the like button down below. That's your thumbs up. We have to wait for them to move and get out of the way. Once they're out of the way, then we can drop our flaps down to
west of the
what we had planned.
Maintain VFR.
Thank you, Brian. All right, there's the thumbs up and the pin. So now we can go and set our flaps to 5. We're going to check our flight control systems. Full down, full up, full left, full right, rudder, full left, full right. Recall the 6-pack here, make sure we don't have anything missing. Lower DU, switch. Off.
7 Whiskey Lima, I have your clearance advisory, do copy.
We're ready, 7 Whiskey Lima.
No, we'll check
7
this.
Whiskey Lima, clear
Alright,
to the
now we're going to go ahead
Delta
and
Tango Sierra Airport, present position, direct
wait for
Charlie
them to
Echo
finish
Whiskey,
calling, and
Bravo
then we're
maintain flight
going
level
to
270.
call for taxi.
You're clear to Destin, present position, direct clear view, and climb maintain 270, 7 Whiskey Lima.
Go and turn these on. And Memphis Center, Delta 1204, ready to taxi 36 Center.
Delta 1204, Squawkman Charlie.
I'm not already on Mo Charlie. No, I'm not. Yeah, Mo Charlie.
Delta 1204, runway 36 Center, taxi via Juliet.
Taxi 36 Center via Juliet, Delta 1204. Somehow I missed that. That's okay. Alright, park brake release, takeoff test. What that is basically I'm going to take my throttles. I'm going to push them about 50% up really fast and then bring them back down. And the reason why I'm doing that, I didn't want to hear any beeping. If I hear like a that's telling me that the takeoffs are not, we're not set for takeoff, right? So flaps aren't down or something. Our brakes aren't set to RTA or something like that. So, test my brakes. They're good. Alright, cabin lighting. We're going to switch to takeoff. And we're going to go chimes.
Delta 616, descend via the vans to arrival. Memphis is landing north, Memphis altimeter 3012.
Descend via the vans.
All right.
Memphis is landing north. American 6162.
Nice easy pace here. So there's actually speed limits for the Boeing aircraft. You can't take turns more than 15 knots. Taxi, I believe it's 20 or 25, one of the two. I usually like to stay somewhere out between 10 to 15, even on a straight taxiway. Now, of course, that's depending on the airport and how busy things are, and you know, if it's really busy airport like Atlanta or something, yeah, you're going to be booking it on the taxiways, because the ground controllers are going to start screaming at you if you don't keep moving. Not really, they won't scream at you. So funny joke here. If you ever look at, well, it's not a joke, it's reality. If you ever look on an airport, if you're ever flying and you see a bunch of Southwest aircraft, you know, booking it on taxiways, I'm talking 20, 25 knots, just moving, right? Not a good clip compared to other aircraft. There's a reason for that, because Southwest pilots don't get flight time. Don't get paid while they're on the ground.
Memphis information, Bravo is current, altimeter 3010.
3010. They only get their time when they're actually in the air, so that makes them want to get to the runway as quickly as possible. Now, as a benefit to that for Southwest Airlines, you know, they're rarely ever late. They're usually always on time, because people aren't lollygagging. They're moving it to get off the ground. So there's positives to that. Negatives to that, you may have someone rush when they should be rushing, and, you know, potentially a safety problem. But I don't know. That's just what I heard. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
247, runway 2 left, taxi via Tango 2, Bravo. Cross runway 31 at Bravo. Those are 247, the national altimeter 3009.
All right. So now that we're kind of past everything, I go ahead and turn on my lights here. How can I get that livery? It's default. It's default. If you're talking about the Delta one I'm flying right now, this one I'm talking about, this one's default. Comes with the plane. I think it comes with, yeah, it comes with it. Auto throttle's active. Talking about my Flight Club livery, that's only available to Flight Club members. Right, LNAV or heading select. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go heading select on initial flight. VNAV, that's going to be right here. Go and activate that. Weather radar on, because there's no one in front of us. We're not going to vaporize anybody. Transponder TARA. So we go down here. Transponder TARA. That's going to give us traffic. Yoke checklist before. Config set. Flaps good. State trim. Takeoff briefing is complete. Cabin secure. Speed. Blah, blah, blah. Now, a takeoff briefing, that is a little bit different. That talks about usually the first officer is the one doing that, or whoever's the one flying versus the one.
Delta 1204 RNAV to Beale, wind variable at 5, runway 36 center, clear for takeoff.
RNAV to Beale, runway 36 center, clear for takeoff, Delta 1204. So one of the things that we'll do is whoever's not flying the aircraft will actually brief. Taking off runway 36 center, we're going to climb to 5,000, return left to 325 initially off the runway at 500 feet or 1,000 feet or whatever it may be. Turn left 325 to Beale. You briefing that. You're briefing, if you... Okay, that did not transition for some reason. Hold on. That's interesting that it didn't transition. All right. So anyway, you're doing all the communications. What if you have an engine out? What if you have both engines out? What if you have birds? What if you something runway incursion or anything like that? You're covering all that. I do not stream on Twitch anymore because it's owned by Amazon, and I had problems with Amazon. But I used to. I still have a channel there. I just don't use it. I stream here on YouTube because this is where most of my people are that follow me. I also have a problem with YouTube, but that's a whole different issue. But anyway, I also upload over the Rumble. So everything that I stream, I download and I upload over on Rumble because I think that's the future, but that's just my opinion. All right, clock timer set ET. Once we get on the runway, we'll verify a couple things. All right, on the ground, 36 center. Heading is 000. Thrust set 40. Set 40 and toga. And pushing down on the yoke to keep the nose wheel on the ground at first. Keeping us centered. 80 knots, releasing the pressure on the yoke. Staying centered as best I can.
Delta
Hold back
247,
and hold.
wind variable at, wind calm, runway 2 left, clear for takeoff.
You're coming up. And pulling up to the magenta lines. Holding it 1,000 feet, activating autopilot. Verify gears up.
Delta 1204, radar contacts, the altitude passing.
Past 2,000.
Delta 1204, climb and maintain flight level 360.
Climb maintain 360 for Delta 1204. Alright, so gear can come up one. As I'm adjusting this knob. And all the way up. Alright, landing gear is going into the off position. Auto brakes can come off now. Engine switches can go just start switches 1 and 2. Auto, there's no auto, it's just off. So that should be, I believe that should be, it's probably systems here. Systems. Maybe it's not. Thought it was. Nah, whatever. Alright, cabin pressures. So, cabin, we're going to check here. And we're seeing that we are climbing. Differential, you know, within reason. We don't want to see it like crazy ridiculousness, right? So that's within limits. And contact ATC, yoke clutch, takeoff, after takeoff. Complete. Chimes only. So this says no smoking. It should say chimes only, but all right. So now we're flying, and I will be continue to fly for about an hour.
Delta 247 radar contact, stay altitude passing.
Passing and maintaining 4,000, Delta 247.
Okay,
Delta
so
247, clear direct King, climb and maintain flight level 350.
Direct to King, climb to 350, Delta 247.
I noticed something I missed. This I messed up. So I had on heading mode. I didn't switch it to LNAV. That's on me. That's a pilot error. Pilot error. Pilot error. Once we get on intercept here, we'll switch it back over to LNAV. All right, LNAV activated. All these lights can come off. Again, checking cabin pressurization. Words. Cabin pressurization. Checking to make sure it's still good. Fast seatbelts can go to auto. Recall, say we have no errors that we didn't push out. And heading, we're going to adjust track. I do, Brian, I do. I don't do it as much as I would like to because it seems like most people don't want to watch that. So I tend to, stream what people want to watch. But I do, yes, I do. But anyway, so we're going to keep flying all the way to New Orleans. I mean, in the meantime, now is the perfect time to ask questions that you would like to hear. Heading, we're going to get that set there. So one of the things that you'll do while you're flying, if you want to be occupied, is we actually, I'll do it over here on the left-hand side. If we go to our Abby tab, pull up our charts, pull up our, actual flight plan, and go to our waypoints, which I believe starts on page 4. Yep. So we're about to cross Pyramid. So at Pyramid, we should have used, if you look at Pyramid, we should have approximately 11.5, so 11,500 pounds of fuel on board, and burned 1.7. So if we look over here, we can see, let me change off engines real fast. How much fuel do we have on board? Right, so 56, quick calculation, that puts us about 11, right? Of course, now we're passing over the E-max. We go to used, and it gives us fuel used. So we're about 1.8, and if we check E-max, we're 11.3 and used 1.9. So that's pretty darn close, and that's just checking to make sure that you're not, using. You make sure you have the right amount of fuel on board. You're burning as much as you calculated, stuff like that, right? So you do that at periodically on the flight, mainly at waypoints. At hose, we should have 11.1 on board and use 2.1. We have 11.1 on board and we've used 2. So we're actually we used a little bit less fuel than calculated. So that's how you're just periodically checking that as you're flying. Now, as we get up to 18,000 feet, we're going to switch this over to standard first. And then we'll switch this over to standard. And standard is 29.92 or 10.13. Okay, so that's that. And now we're just going to continue our climb up to 36,000 feet.
Level 6160, just going to maintain 7,000, expect vectors ILS runway 36 right.
Down to 7,000, expect vectors ILS 36 right. American 6160.
All right. Oh, Birmingham's online? That's interesting. I don't see Birmingham usually online. Birmingham ground. Interesting. That is interesting. Anyway, so we'll climb up 36,000 feet, then it'll switch over to Mach, and it'll fly, I think it's 0.77 Mach to our top of descent. When we get there, there's going to be steps before that we'll cover. But once you're on VATSIM, there's not a lot that you have to worry about. In dealing with air traffic control, it's just repeating back what they've said and following their instructions. I mean, it's that simple. If you don't understand something, you ask. Whatever. I don't know which. Yeah, I can explain that, Andrew. So the reason why I don't put it directly on heading is because if you look, this little white triangle, so this is actually calculating our slightly right tailwind, which is going to be pushing our aircraft to the left of this magenta line. So if I had to switch over to heading mode, if I was directly on heading, it would maintain this heading, but I would start shifting off the magenta line, off my route to the left. And it would just get worse and worse and worse as time progressed. So if you keep your heading on the white triangle, which accounts for that wind drift, then you actually end up staying on the magenta line if I had to switch off of lateral navigation and go heading select. So that's why I don't put it directly on the heading. I put it on that white triangle. That's my it's getting that wind crosswind component automatic calculated. Good question though. Most people probably didn't even notice that. It's a good eye. So we got about 50 more minutes of flight time. So plenty of time to ask questions. About 250 miles from the destination, we will adjust some things, go over some briefs on different topics and stuff of that nature, on things that you should know about with VATSIM as well as just flying the 737-800. So I'm basically predetermining that based off this distance, it's about 5-degree difference that we're going to have once we get to the actual direction.
6160, descend and maintain 4,000.
What's for lunch? I don't know. What do you want for lunch? Am I correct? Oh, I was off 1 degree. That's all right. That's all right. So next waypoint is Pipey. So we go to Pipey. And 10 on board, 3.2 used. So yep, we're going to be about 10 on board. And 98.6. Yeah, that's fine for climb. I'm actually 98.8, but yeah, that's totally fine. Again, it's going to be dependent on a lot of different factors. Your weight, the winds, all that gets calculated. Efficiency that you're going for, you know, obviously a more efficient climb would be a slower climb with a lower power setting. Yeah, that's totally fine. You can see it adjusts as it needs to based off of the weather changing circumstances and things of that nature. What I did not put up was the live tracker. Do that real fast.
Delta 6160, descend and maintain 2,000.
Down to 2,000 for 6160.
There we go.
Delta 247, leave my airspace. ND is offline. Radio services terminated. Frequency change approved. Good night.
Frequency change approved for Delta 247. Have a good rest of your day.
There's no value put in the vertical speed windows to calculate this in brief. So vertical speed's all calculated. Yep, it's all calculated based on, again, a ton of different factors. And it also matters depending on your waypoints, right? So every departure, you know, has its own
6160, turn left heading 270.
requirements. Let's see if I can actually
Vectors to final for 6160.
bring this up for you. Not charts, airports. Yep, don't need that anymore. But let's bring up. Yeah, so this didn't have any particular altitude on this departure. Now, if we were going these crosswind departures, or if you were departing south on this, you have to be above 860 feet at this point. And there's a reason for that. Different types of obstacles in the area or whatever. Ooh, let me change this to 10 degrees. But every departure and arrival has its own requirements in regards to the altitude of each waypoint. Because of that, you have to, you know, that has to be accounted for in the computer. And that's what the FMC does. It does all those calculations for you. So you don't have to worry about it. But if let's say your FMC fails, you have to still be able to fly and meet those requirements. Now, this comes more to effect when you have your arrivals. For example, at Rhythm, we have to be across at 11,000 feet. Now, because we're crossing at 11,000 feet, we have to make sure, no matter what it is, whatever that vertical speed we end up having to use, that we get down to Rhythm and be at 250 knots and 11,000 feet. Now,
6160, 7 miles from McGee, turn right
here is
330, maintain 2,000 to establish and localize.
something that you keep in mind. Speed is your friend and also your enemy. Airbus especially. Airbuses are known to speed like crazy. So it's important to make sure that you go ahead. I always descend just a little bit earlier than it's calculated to start top of descent, so that I can have a little bit more gradual descent, so I can maintain that speed a little bit better. Now, Boeings will slow down. They're like a bus. They'll slow down pretty fast. You don't have to worry about it as much. But with Airbuses, it's a constant kind of fight that you're going to be doing. But yeah, notice that the IIS mod is also blank because it's, again, being calculated automatically. Now, if I switched it over to speed or switched it to vertical speed, it would fill it with the current vertical speed or the current speed. That's what it would hold until I told it to do otherwise. If that makes sense. Now we're about to reach our top of climb, as you can see on our little green circle, and T/C, if you can see that.
Memphis Center, Delta 151, flight level 170, climbing 380.
151, Memphis Center, squawk 1573.
Gotcha, Bog. Gotcha.
Squawk 1573 for Delta 151.
FSX, that's what I started with back 13 years ago.
6160, wind variable at 5, or my
13 years ago.
Clear to land 36 right.
Wow, that's been a long time. Been a long time.
Batman 1, can request radio check.
Batman 1, Memphis Center, 5x5.
Yep.
Call sign Fatman 1. Hey. Always a fun time. Close to the top of climb. Almost in cruise. So we'll go in here. It's under ground services. Don't click any of those things. Just click cabin lighting. Select cruise, medium, and then we'll do an announcement. We've leveled off. Do I not have... Yeah, well, I get the whole... the whole computer hardware issues. I will say this though, you might want to hold off on 2020 anyway. See what X-Plane 12 is going to bring. I know right now 2020 has been a absolute pain for me. It's just glitched out and broken, poor performance, all that kind of stuff. But up to y'all. I mean, your preference is your preference. Let's do a behind the wings shot here. This looks like a good window to look through. All right. And close the door. All right. So next waypoint is
151, radar contact 26 miles east of the Big B.
Macomb, which is 119 miles away.
I'm going to maintain 380 with Delta 151.
But pretty smooth sailing. We do have this crosswind that I don't like. You can see we're having to, if I actually look here, ooh, that was not what I meant to do. Don't do Control 2. Shift 2. There we go. Look at the angle we're flying at, just to maintain the right route. See that?
It's Batman 1, request VFR to Travis.
Batman 1 Memphis Center, standby.
Standby.
And now we wait for an eternity. Not really. All right, so we'll go to progress page. Progress page is nice. Kind of gives you an idea of what you're looking at. So this is estimating that we're going to have 7.7 fuel left at that port. So if we go here,
Delta 6160, Sexy, Sierra 3, Lima to the ramp.
look at Macabre, it wants at 7.6. So we're going to have a little bit more fuel than anticipated.
Sierra 3, Lima to the ramp, processing 36 center.
All right, so if we look, we are 80 miles from top of descent, right? So it wants us to go ahead and start pulling information for our descent computer, our computer to do. So we'll go in here, go to descent, go to forecasts. I'm gonna pull up AviTab right here, and we're gonna zoom out real fast. We're gonna go to our weather. Wind information. So we're going to put in our wind information here. So altitude, we're going to put 2150. And let me bring this so you can see it better. Come on. No, not that. There we go.
Batman 1,
100. Those are the 3 altitudes I chose. That's right, 2000. Now, if you had a big change in weather, like wind here, like say it was, 88 to like 5, then you'd want to put it in there. But normally as you get down is where you have that change. So you between 20,000 feet and 15,000 feet, we have that big change in winds. That's why I'm putting that there. All right. Why is my mouse all of a sudden jerky? Okay, it's fine. We're fine. We're all right. Okay. So winds are going to be 284 at 53, 278, 37, and 259 at 32. Right? Cool. Now, other thing we want to do is ISO deviation and Q and H. Now, to get this information, we're going to go back to page 1. Average ISA is positive 6. Okay? So 6 is going to go here. It's going to be our average. And now we're going to pull our actual local Q and H. To do that, I'm going to use Active Sky, but you can obviously pull the ATIS or something like that. So, that nature. So, but I'm going to use this because I know it's going to be correct. And we're going to put in New Orleans. And we have a Q and H, or pressure of 30. So, 6/30.07 in there, and we're going to execute that information. So, descent weather is complete. Transition is 18,000. Local Q and H, ISO deviation selected. And it's the flight plan average ISA is what you're putting there. Next, we're going to go to fix. Fix is going to be runway RWY 02, or as RW, would be RW02. Yeah, RW02. Now, radial, we're going to do a quick calculation, okay? Quick calculation, we need 36 times 3 plus 10. So 36 times 3, the way I do it is I break the 6 off, 30. 30 times 3 is 90. 3 times 6 is 18. So 108 plus 10, 118. Now I'll explain that in just a second. 118. Next I'm going to put 10 and then 4.5. So the 108 is my estimated top of descent in case the computer's all off. So that's a good rule of thumb is your altitude between you and the airport. Again, New Orleans is 3 feet. But if it's 1,000 feet up, then it would be 35, right? So, you end up having to make the calculation times 3 plus 10. So times 3 plus 10, that's it. So cruise flight times 3 plus 10. And that's where you get 118 from. 10 and 4.5, those are two different like measures on an approach of what you need to be set by. 4.5, that's landing set, like everything's configured, stabilized, ready to go. 10 is like your flaps are down 5 or 10 and getting into that position. So it's just like, like a measuring steps that you put on there. All right, so fixes are done. Distance rings set. Nav frequencies. So this is where we would go in and pull up our charts here. So we go in AviTab airports. I've already got that set. We want to pull up this. We want to go to our approaches, ILS runway 2. This is important, very important right here. So if we bring this up, gives us our ADIS, all this information that was useful. Our localizer is what we're paying attention to, though, 11.7. So if we look down here, this needs to be 11.7. We're going to put it on both sides.
1204, you leave airspace to the south. Houston's offline, radar services terminated, frequency change approved, good day.
Frequency change approved, good day, have a good one. Delta 1204. Alright, so now we are over on Unicom, because they're offline down here. And Unicom on VATSIM is 122.8. Alright, so 11.7 is put on both of these. We're going to switch them from passive to active on both of them. Okay, courses according to chart. So if we look here, our course, our final approach course is 016, right? Even though we're runway 02, it's 016, the actual course. So we're going to go and put that in here. And if you don't put this in here, your ILS is not going to work properly. 016. Okay, so that's set. Now, altitude bug. So we're going to change our altitude bug to, there's a couple options here, okay? In most cases, you're going to adjust it till your initial altitude fix, and our initial approach fix. And I'll get that in a second. But if you are on VATSIM, sometimes they'll say set and maintain 12,000, and it has nothing to do with any of the approaches that you've set, okay? You just have to be aware of that. But in this case, initial approach fix is going to be POV, which is 2,000. So go ahead and set this to 2,000. As such, it actually is, I think it's Royal is actually the initial approach fix, and then POV is your final approach fix. You don't have a lot of, this one doesn't have a lot of fixes at all, so, but it changes. All right, landing performance calculation. So if we go down into our initial again, next, is that not, here we go, index, there we go, approach. And this is the correct one. I was thinking Airbus looking. Whoop. That tells you how much I've flown it. All right, so 30 is 147, 40 is 140. We'll select 40 for now. Put it into the flaps and speed. So that's completed. Auto brakes is calculated. So this all depends on the runway. Now the runway length here. Let's see. It should give us it. ILS is 415. Where's my runway length? Not gonna. I thought it gives it on here. Maybe I'm just missing it. Either way, I can get it on the main chart here. 2 is not very long. 7,000 feet. So I'm gonna put this onto 3. Okay. Yoke checklist descend. Complete. We're getting close to this line, and we're going to go ahead and make a message here. Cabin lighting. We're going to switch it to takeoff and landing. Right, and make an announcement we're descending. Okay, now we're going to go to here. Once we hit this line, we're going to descent, and then we're going to hit descend now once we hit this line. This makes it a little bit easier gradual descent rather than just dropping out of the sky like it may have you do if you just follow the computer. And descend now, execute. So now we're starting our descent. It's going to manage that. So let's go ahead and brief, though, this chart. All right, so we've got this locked in, 11.7 set. Approach course is POV is going to be our final approach fix at 2,000 feet. Our decision altitude is going to be 415 barometric. So reset this. $415. Make sure that's set on both sides here. $415 set on both sides. Okay. Airport elevation is 4. Touchdown zone is 2 feet. Okay. A missed approach. If we have a missed approach, if we go missed, we're going to climb to 1,500 feet. Then we're going to continue climbing, and we're going to make a right-hand turn. 3,000 is going to be our goal of altitude. Outbound to the Romeo Quebec Romeo VOR radial 082 to the Snaky interception, about 36.6 DME from RQR and hold. Now, if you look at this on the map, basically you're going to come up, you're going to take, once we go missed, we're going to turn right, making a right-hand turn. If you see it right here, it shows you the right-hand turn into Snaky, a right-hand turn to Snaky on the RQR 082 radial, and also intersection of PCU 193 radial. Those are 2 VORs that we'll use. So, because we would need to use those VORs for our missed approach, then we're going to go ahead and put in as our alternate 110.8 on both of these. So this is in case we have to go missed. We can pull these to see our actual radials. Okay. Continuing down, so 2,000, of course, is 016 at 2,000 at POV, which is 7.4 miles from the missed approach point. We'll start our descent. Our glide slope should be intercepted at this point. Europe, about 480 feet, and continue down until about 1, let's see what it says right here, 1.25. 1.25 visibility is required. Once we get, we're going to stay, basically, if we don't see the airport, if we're going to maintain this altitude until, if we don't see the airport at all, then we'll go missed. Okay. This is altitude of the minimums, which are going to be 415, right? So 415. So we maintain 415. If we don't see the airport, then we go missed. All right, and that's pretty much it on the briefing that. There's a lot more in here, but for our purposes, that's totally fine. All right, bank angle 25. One thing I do go and prep as well is our barometric pressure. You can go and set that at 3007 on the standby. Got that angle going. Right now winds are 010 at 11 knots. So that makes sense why we're going to be landing 02. Now if you look, our approach is kind of weird. We're going to fly over the airport and then turn around and come back. It's a interesting approach since we're coming from the north and we're going to be landing north. You have to go over and then turn around and come back. But it is what it is. One good thing to go ahead and prep yourself with is having the airport diagram chart up. Now, obviously, I'm using AviTab, and I have all the charts in there because of Navigraph. If I didn't have Navigraph, I'd be using SkyVector for all of my charts, which I showed you early on in this video. That's where I'd pull all my airport diagrams, all of your approach charts, plates, and that stuff. Now, if you are on VATSIM, there's an important point. If you're on VATSIM, you do not descend until you're given permission to. So if you're getting close to your top of descent, then you call up center and be like, you know, Houston Center, Delta 1204, requesting descent. Okay, simple, that simple thing. They'll say, okay, you know, Delta 1204 descend via the whatever arrival this is. I can't remember the name of it. Let me look it up real fast. Descend via the rhythm for arrival, altimeter 3007 or 3005, New Orleans landing north. Okay, something like that. That's what you would get. And when you get that, that means you repeat it back, you know, Delta 1204, clear descend via the rhythm for arrival, altimeter 3005, New Orleans landing north. Once you get that permission, then you can, of course, you know, you can descend at that point. But until you get that permission, you're not going to. Now, that may give you intermediate, you know, descend to 24,000 feet or something like that. And then you descend to the altitude versus descending via your RNAV arrival. So keep that in mind. You don't want to end up descending past the altitude that they gave you. All right, switch things to standard or off standard. Lamar, you can always rewind it, or after this is over, you can always go back and watch it again, the beginning part. All right, approach checklist. Altitudes, instruments set and checked. Approach checked and set. Okay. 10,000 feet, we'll turn our landing lights on. The big deal is, again, passing rhythm at 11,000 feet, since that's on the arrival requirement, 250 knots. That's the big deal. Got to make sure you don't violate those restrictions. That's how you get in trouble with the FAA. but in this case, just VATSIM, because this is virtual. It's not real. Oops. So I'm going to add a little bit of speed brakes here. It's just working the radio. I gotcha. In regards to like what to say, when to say it, that kind of thing, or is it more of like how to actually work the radio in the aircraft? What in the world is going on here? Why was the right engine up? I do go over that, how to pre-plan all the frequencies. All right, adding speed brake to slow down. Again, looking for 250 knots at rhythm, which we are close to, so. All right, 250 knots at rhythm, 11,000 feet. I'll maintain this for a little while, then we'll start a top descent in 15 miles. From 11,000 down to 2,000. Yes, this is the extended version. Yeah, this is the full version. All right. 10 miles. So I didn't put the transition point, but I'm thinking that transition point would have been beneficial for the transition point, but the via point Oleto. I think that would have been beneficial. Because we're going straight to Royal. I think going to Oleto would be better, because we wouldn't have to do a full 360. Or 180. Let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah, that's gonna be better. Yeah, otherwise we would have gone straight over and tried to make a 180 degrees, which would not happen. In reality, the approach controller would probably be vectoring me at this point. Just, you know, heading. So that's probably what they'd be doing. So I'm just going to kind of do that myself and go to Oleto to that, and that's the initial approach fix for that now. So That makes more sense. Makes more sense for the aircraft. Doing the 180-degree turn where you're coming in and you have to turn around. It's actually more than 180 degrees. They say it's 180. It's not. It's not 180. You are going the opposite direction, but you have to turn more than 180 degrees. It's more like, let's say it's like 230 or 240 or something like that. Because you go past the point and then you have to make a 180, but then you have to turn back towards the point. So it's like 30 degrees or 40 degrees or whatever. So that's when you hear the whole, impossible turn or the, impossible 180 or something like that, where you're returning back to the same runway you just took off from. It's not actually 180 degrees. It's more than that. So one thing I will do when we get closer, I'll probably take over speed control and vertical speed control as well. Yeah, absolutely, and that's why you brief that's why you brief everything. So that's why you do a arrival brief and approach brief. That's why you do all that, so that you are familiar with those different waypoints. Now you're seeing these green rings. Those are the rings that I put in there with the fixes. And they have a purpose for that. There's a purpose. There is a purpose. Now, as we pass 10,000 feet, there's several things I want to do. Landing light and turn off lights are coming online. Fasten seatbelt sign. On. And we're going to make the announcement, prepare for landing. Now my vertical speed's kind of stabilized at 1500. I'm going to take over speed control here. We're going to go down to 15. About 1500, we'll keep that. We're going to decrease our speed. The flap up position. You follow whatever ATC tells you to do. ATC is above the approach charts. If ATC is not online or they don't otherwise specify, you follow the instructions of the charts. Charts are, it's like ATC charts, right? But here's the key. Pilot in command, ATC charts. Pilot in command is the one who makes the decision for the safety and security of the aircraft in general. So if you need to slow down because something's not feeling right about your aircraft, disregard the ATC, disregard the charts, say, listen, I can't do that. Unable. I've got to fly the speed because something's going on with the aircraft. Because you're the pilot in command, you got to make the safety call. Now on VATSIM, they may ask you to disconnect because you're interfering with other people's play and whatever, and they're not going to do the whole, emergency stuff. Some controllers will if it's light enough. Usually I like to private message it, but hey, do you mind if I do something that's emergency related? But yeah, so just keep that in mind. Got speed brakes out, slow me down a little bit as I descend. Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. And that's all, you know, they're gauging traffic, so right now I'm on leave of absence, but I'm also a controller on VATSIM, tower controller, so you may get different directions from approach controllers to get you into the sequence faster for whatever reason, for traffic purposes and so forth. But again, if you're like, that's going to make you go too fast, you're not going to be able to slow down, they'd be like, hey, I'm not going to be able to slow down in time. Kind of get a, you know, the different routing or different instructions. And most controllers are perfectly fine with obliging requests as long as it's not ridiculous. But don't make those really requests during an event. And during an event, just do what they say, do the best you can. If you can't do it, just disconnect. That's generally going to be the best option. You're welcome. I'm going to prep this. Heading. All right. Slowing down.
Thousand to go.
I was kind of hoping we'd have instrument all the way down. Do an actual instrument approach, that'd be awesome. And set flaps 5. Altitude hold. And we're going to set our heading now to the same course as the runway. Actually, maybe an actual instrument approach. It's exciting. VOR selected. And approach mode activated. Not going to worry about that. Heading bug set. Altitude bug missed approach set to 3000. And we contact established on the ILS. They would clear us to land or whatever. And here comes the important at 4.5 nautical miles DME, which is what this ring is right here. We're going to lower flaps 15, flap speed 15, and left and right wipers as needed. Landing gear down, of course, as well. So we're going to maintain this. One thing I do want to check real fast, my apologies, while we're doing this, I want to make sure. Okay. Make sure the thrust reversers were set, because that's important on a short runway like this. Now you see the blue dotted line? That is the missed approach course. We're going to hold 2000 until we hit about Povey. We should intercept the glide slope. I'm glad this worked out. I mean, we're actually getting a true instrument approach right now. It's pretty cool. And glide slope intercepted. 7.5 DME. And I can actually see the DME right here on the glass there. PFD. That's alright, man. Still a good thing, right? At least you're getting it. Alright, it's almost there. Gear coming down. Flap setting 15. Speed set 15. Barely have the runway. Not going to call that good yet. Continuous. Clear to land. Speed brakes armed. Should be. Not wanting to stay armed. Oh well. Brakes is calculated. Landing gears down and 3 greens. Landing flaps. Set.
Approaching minimums.
Taking over manual control.
Minimums.
Continue. Auto throttle off. All right. Auto brakes off. B brakes coming up. Yeah, fly was good. Fly was good. Just go back and watch the whole thing. Yeah, flaps coming up. At this point, you would contact. They would tell you to contact ground control. You contact ground control, and they would say, you know, any taxi to the ramp, whatever they give you. All right, landing lights come off. This can go back to offs, and flat APU can go with start. All right, what was my landing rate? I don't even know what my landing rate was. I was focused on flying. What was it? I'll have to tell me. All right, guys, that was pretty good. I'd say it was great, but what was the number? What was the number? How would I know the number? I can always go back and watch it myself if I need to, though. All right, flight directors coming off. Both sides. Speed 100 knots. 153. Oh, that's not bad at all. A little bit of a long landing, though. That was my kind of my own nick, you know, picking at myself. All right, cabin lighting. Rope heats off. APU's on, switch that over. Engine 2. Go and cut off that guy as we approach the ground crew. Turn off lights can come off. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this has been a very useful tutorial for you. If it has, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, the like button down below. Let me know you liked it. If you didn't like it, well, don't worry about it. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icons so you can get notified when I go live next. And we'll stop right there. Pull the parking brake. At this point, we'll disconnect from VATSIM. Cool deal. And we're not going to worry about doing the rest of that checklist. The program use of SMC from start to finish the flight was invaluable to me, and I look forward to implementing this in the future. We'll have capable flight sim to use on. Awesome, Bog. That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you. To you as well. I need to go to the replay. That's what I need to do. Yep. Toggle replay mode. Go back to... This looks probably pretty good. We'll go outside. And one further thing I need to do real fast is grab all of this. And open. There we go. Get some music playing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, how it is. Let this play out and enjoy it. And I'll see you guys next time. Up with the sky.